Hello, everybody, and welcome to Turn 1. I'm Sean Vince. So much for being here tonight. Another Tuesday night means it's the Downforce Racing Series live on Turn 1. We're in Dover, the Monster Mile here on the iRacing service on this fine Tuesday evening, and I tell you what, it's gonna be a good one. Vinny Masteus is gonna take home another pole here tonight. Gonna start on the inside of row number 1. Caden Henry Oaks, number 2. Ryan Patty, Tyler White, Dave Hunt, your top 5. Mike Whitaker, Thomas Taylor, Rondell, Bob Lacavera, Bonnie Barrington, Sean Anderson, Hannah Vist, your 12 cars in this Cup Series field as they get rolling here at Dover. It's going to be another great night of racing action here on Turn 1. Thanks so much for tuning in. This race here tonight is actually going to conclude coverage of all the racing action on Turn 1 here this week. We are off Sunday night for a 1-week break. The Sunday night Surge Series taking a 1-week break, and then we return back to a Cup Series action on Monday night. The pace truck's going to head down pit road. Vinny Masteus, Ryan Patty. A little bit of animosity between these two. We'll see how it all shakes out. Down to the green flag, and we're underway here at Dover. Masteus out to an early lead, pretty much the entire top 5. Single filed out here to kick things off. .140 laps are going to fly by here. These lap times going to be right around the 29-second mark, so we're going to see these drivers really put down some impressive speed here. This high-baked, high downforce, or high-baked and really a high G track at Dover lends itself to being a great show as Vinny Masteus just pulls a 22.90 last time by. Those 29-second lap times for just those that first green flag lap. That just shows you how quick you can tick them off here. Ryan Patty, Caden Henry Oaks settled into 3rd. Dave Hunt is settled into 4th. Tyler White making up the top 5. Just look through the field. What you see is what you get. This has been actually this is really good racing with this crew last week. Smaller field allowing for a lot of green flag action. And we're going to continue to see it unwind here at Daytona. I'm sorry, not Daytona, at Dover rather. Vinny Masteus already out to 9/10 of a second lead over Ryan Patty. Caden Henry Oaks settled into 3rd in that 51 Dude Wipes car. Dave Hunt, Tyler White. While we've got an opportunity here, I was going to say let's ride on board. We'll let it cycle out just a little bit as we see down in 1 and 2 the sun shaded by those clouds. That's going to cool off this racetrack. These drivers send these cars so hard down into the corner. The quarter entry is really important to have that squared out. I for one, have always loved this racetrack. I felt like I've got the most success here as a driver on the iRacing service at this track here at Dover. And it's all because it is momentum and rhythmic. You get down, turn 1 is a little different than turn 2. Turn 2, though, coming off the corner, as you saw there, who was that? That was Mike Whitaker. I'm sorry, not Mike Whitaker. That was Rondell. He nearly had that car out to the wall. That is one thing you've got to maintain and be really careful with here, is coming and unloading the car off of turn number 4. The track, it doesn't really change a ton there, but the transition makes that area really narrow. You could get through there too wide. Anything more than that is going to be pretty much chaos and almost guaranteed to cause some issues. At turn number 2, you've got to drive off the corner out much further down the straightaway than you think you would. And all of these things really a factor in getting around this 1 mile racetrack, really important. Caden Henry Oaks settling in right here to 3rd. No real pressure on Ryan Patty. The back behind him, it's Dave Hunt, Tyler White, mostly our top 7 unchanged since the start of the race here. And we have already completed 10 laps on our way to 140 for tonight's Downforce Racing Series action right here on Turn 1 Broadcasting. This group has only got, I believe, 2 races left. Next week, I believe we head to Kansas, and then after that is championship racing. They will wrap up the first week of August, and that'll conclude a really solid run here for the Downforce Racing Series on Turn 1. As we see Caden Henry Oaks now starting to pressure Ryan Patty just a little bit. Coming off a 2. Vinny Masteus last week. Well, let's put it this way. Maybe a little bit of bad blood between the 70 and the 30 car. Those two made contact towards the end of last week's race. And it genuinely looked like a racing incident as Ryan Patty is slow off of turn 2. That's actually going to cause Oaks and Hunt to get checked up, and Hunt's going to get by Caden Henry Oaks. That is going to be for a top 3 here. Dave Hunt making his march forward here. It looked like Ryan Patty may have had a little bit of an issue getting off the quarter, which ultimately checked up that crew behind him. Back talking about the 70 to the 30. We've seen them make contact with one another, and that caused a little bit of bad blood and some retaliation. Intended or not, Ryan Patty, and unfortunately towards the end of the race last week, collected the 70 car of Vinny Masteus. We found these two running first and second again here tonight. So will that be a factor in tonight's finish here at Dover? It very well could be, but right now, Vinny Masteus, the fastest on track by a pretty tall margin, 1.2 seconds out front of Ryan Patty. I think every week we start to talk about tire wear, pretty early, especially in these next-gen Cup cars. But it's just as important as anywhere here at Dover. Lap 17, coming to complete lap number 17. And the fastest laps for a lot of these drivers are high 22-second lap times, low 23s. Well, our leader this last time by, Vinny Masteus, we'll actually take a look at the stripe here. His best was a 22.84. He ran that on lap 3. And he is already 0.5 slower. Those tires becoming a factor here early at Dover. Ryan Patty has separated himself from Caden Henry Oaks. And then it's Dave Hunt, Tyler White. Tyler, again, that position, really our top 6 unchanged. We go back a little bit here. Bob Lacavera, driver of the 5 car. He's up 2 spots, currently up to 7th on that qualifying effort. John Anderson's up 4. And currently sitting 8th in this Rondell Thomas Taylor, your top 10. As we talked about the longer green flag runs here. And these tighter fields have really shifted the racing dynamic for these drivers. And has the opportunity to produce a lot of green flag racing. And so far, we are free and green across the board. That's going to kick off lap number 21 of 140. As Masteus comes off the corner there. Off of 2, starting to extend that lead now out to 1.4 seconds. A little bit of a battle here on track. That's Dave Hunt, Tyler White. They've maintained fairly close to each other. Oh, we go back here a little bit. Who was that got a little sideways? It wasn't Thomas Taylor. Was that Rondell? He up high on the racetrack coming out of 4, or coming into 4. Those drivers able to get it now recollected, and then now it looks like John Anderson and Mike Whitaker battling side by side. Whitaker starting to fall through the field just a little bit, down 2 spots. Anderson's going to get by him on the inside. You'll see him move up the racetrack and shut the door. Mike Whitaker. Looks like the handling of that 707 car not to his liking in the early going. The 5 of Lacavera is now moved up to 5th, or up to 6th. That's up 3 spots. John Anderson's up 5 spots on the night. Those are some of our biggest movers, while our top 5 rather remains unchanged since the start of the race. The second moment, let's ride on board the 77 car. See, works a couple laps here at Dover. Let's see what these drivers are contending with from a handling perspective. Our first pass of the night for position in the top 5. That's Tyler White. We saw work around Dave Hunt. That is going to be both those drivers switching spots here for 4th. We look a little bit back. John Anderson, he's on a decent roll here. He's up to 6th, up 6 spots. Was able to get around Bob Lacavera. A factor here in this race. The number 56 could be hunting for a top 3 before it's all said and done. They're all bottled up here behind Anderson. That's Lacavera and Barrington. And then it's Whitaker, Taylor, Dell, Hanover, Fist. The rest of the cars on track. Vinny Masteus, that gap that he had out front to Ryan Patty is narrowed. Once was a 1.3 second gap. Now on lap number 31 is down to 0.6 of a second. Ryan Patty starting to pick up the pace just a little bit as we look at John Anderson, Bob Lacavera. Lacavera looking underneath. Anderson is a roll-off of 4. And Anderson's now going to switch him up on corner entry. Anderson right there to the inside. Couldn't make the car stick. Lacavera's going to slide down the racetrack to clear that spot. Oh, and big wiggle there. Who was that? That looked like Barrington may have gotten a little out of shape off too. Either way, Lacavera's going to shut the door on that spot here and pull away in P6. You see Mike Whitaker coming down pit road. That is not a planned stop. These drivers can go, I believe they could go roughly 60 laps on a fuel run here. Is Barrington and Anderson now side by side. Barrington's going to squeeze by John Anderson. And that's going to put Barrington up to that 7th place position. Going back up front, as we were talking about, that gap was starting to minimize a little bit. And Masteus certainly running some slower lap times, about a tenth and a half a second slower than Ryan Patty. Now that gap down to 0.3 as Patty continues to close in on our leader here as they come to lap number 35. Officially a quarter of the way through here, the Downforce Racing Series live right here on Turn 1. Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday night. I'm Sean Fitz. So glad to have you. We're racing at the Monster Mile, Dover, Delaware. We get ready to wrap up the race season. The Downforce Racing Series right here on Turn 1. Mike Whitaker, I show, had a bit of an incident on track. I show actual race incident, but that car looks mostly clear. Some likely not a factor. Macias needs a solid run here and ultimately would love to bring home a victory. I think that would get him pretty much solidified as the season championship, but I'd have to double check the points as he is actually starting to close in on some lap traffic. That's Thomas Taylor up in front of him, and Anderson, who's currently running 8th. Lonnie Barrington up to 6th and kind of running his own race as well as he's starting to run down Dave Hunt just a little bit. That could be a story for a top 5. As Macias has to go to the inside, catches that car of Thomas Taylor in a really bad spot off of 4. Off of 2, and had to take some evasive maneuvers. That did not slow him up, though, because it looks like Patty got caught by the same car in 4. And if anything, kind of extended that gap out a 10th or 2, as now Macias has got to work around this traffic. Who wants to stay on the lead lap? That's Anderson now. Macias is going to slide underneath. And then Bob Lacavera is going to go a lap down. Anderson is going to take the opportunity there and slide by. He's going to get high in the corner. Patty's going to get by him there. No time lost through that lap down car that they had to deal with. And Ryan Patty maintains his lead, 0.6 of a second here, as we're less than 100 to go tonight at Dover. You know who's having a very quiet night in the top 3? That's the 51 of Caden Henry Oaks. Let's ride on board for a couple laps with the Oaks in the 51 car. Back live here on turn 1 as we start to see green flag stops in effect. Dave Hunt hits pit road, lap 51 here. Vinny Masteus maintains his lead, 0.6 of a second over Ryan Patty. Then it's Caden Henry Oaks, Tyler White, and Lonnie Barrington, your top 5. Hunt's down pit road, taking his full service. Then it's Mike Whitaker running 7th. Bob Lacavera, Hanover Fist. Thomas Taylor, John Anderson, Rondale. Rounding out the remainder of the field here as we are quickly closing in on the halfway point here tonight. Only 5 cars on the lead lap, and Masteus Patty put it to blistering laps together. You were not really missing anything on track when it comes to side-by-side action. John Anderson, ISO scored having an issue. That car continues to roll here. Doesn't look like much of any issue. We're going to step aside here. We'll continue with the racing action on screen, but with not a whole lot on track to cover. We're going to step aside for just a moment. Vinny Masteus leads. Lap number 55. You're watching turn 1. under caution here. Lap number 62. This is the first caution of the night, and this is serving as a stage break and letting these drivers catch their breath just a little bit. We'll also see, we saw everybody come down pit road, take tires and fuel for the first time here tonight. Masteus, Patty, Caden Henry Oaks, Tyler White, and Lonnie Barrington, your top 5. We saw White miss pit road entry there. Couldn't get that car checked up enough and had to look to the outside of the entrance. Ultimately able to recover. We're going to restart P3. We have 5 cars on the lead lap getting re-racked here and ready to go as they are just about, they're going to go back green flag racing with about 6 laps before halfway here tonight at Dover. Masteus being the control car is going to take the outside. We saw Ryan Patty make a push there in the middle of the run. Ultimately not able to shut the door long term. We'll see if there's a different strategy as they look down the second half of the race. Green flag back out here at Dover for the Downforce Racing Series. I'm sorry, excuse me, Vinny Masteus taking no time, breaking out a 1.3 second lead over Ryan Patty. Masteus just set the fastest lap of the night on track at 22.69. Those new tires really starting to show up as he has got the afterburners on. 1.5 seconds of gaining. Vinny Masteus out front. Ryan Patty feeling a little bit of pressure here. Caden Henry Oaks just behind him. This is the closest they have been since the start of the race. Again, as we talked about during the restart, Ryan Patty tried to make a run after Masteus midway through the run there, was able to close the gap down to, at times, 3/10 of a second, but ultimately not able to catch up with the 70 car. But did Ryan Patty learn a little something here in the grand scheme of things, knowing he doesn't need to push the issue so early? In hopes of maybe going after that 70 car at the end of this race. Masteus, the biggest gap he's had all night, 1.8 seconds out front. As he's looking down the barrel here of halfway at Dover for the Downforce Racing Series live on Turn 1. Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Fitz. Thanks so much for being here. We are getting close to the end of the schedule for this group on the DRS team. Taking a look very quickly, it's Kansas, and then we wrap it up in Phoenix 2 weeks from tonight. You're going to want to make sure you get connected. Head on over to Turn 1, either on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube, wherever you're watching us here tonight live. And like, subscribe, comment, do what you need to do to support the stream. And also ensure that you're here for the final 2 races of the Downforce Racing Series action on Turn 1. Again, race of the championship coming to wraps at Phoenix 2 weeks from tonight. 9 Eastern, 8 Central. Oaks still all over the rear of Patty. Hasn't really been able to make much gain. Oaks just rotting in the tire tracks of the 30 car. Meanwhile, our leader out to 2.2 seconds, a growing gap out front. Masteus is the best lead he's had all night by far. What is this going to materialize in as they come down the stretch, again, past halfway here tonight? Oaks continues to be all over Patty, and now he's going to take the dive onto the inside, side by side. This is the first battle for second all night. And Caden Henry Oaks is going to try to shut the door. Middle of the corner, did not get it done. It's a drag race into 3. There it is. Oaks able to get into the corner so much better than Patty there. But Patty's now going to look on the inside. A little bit of momentum racing out of these cars. Oaks is going to drive up the racetrack. He's going to have a little bit more pace coming off of 2. Is this going to give him the opportunity to shut the door? Oof. Oaks looks like he makes contact with that outside turn 2 wall. That's going to give Ryan Patty the opportunity to look back inside. Patty now back to second and is able to shut the door currently on Caden Henry Oaks. This battle here for third as Oaks is going to look back down to the inside. Oaks has entry at turn 1 really sorted out, and so much so, I don't think Patty's going to be able to re-challenge on the opposite end of the racetrack. And Caden Henry Oaks able to take that second spot away from Ryan Patty. Now Tyler White actually starting to close in on the bumper of the 30. White is really diamonding off his corner entry and exit off of 4. One of the first drivers to change up that line a bit. Really high entry into 1 as well. That'll be a story we pay close attention to. Meanwhile, Caden Henry Oaks is starting to drive away from Brian Patty. 6/10, now 7/10 of a second, and growing, but he's not chewing into Vinny Mustanis' lead a whole lot. The driver of the 70 car out free and clear by himself and on cruise control. 2.4 seconds over the 51 of Caden Henry Oaks. Not sure what's going on with the 30 machine of Patty here. We saw him running third or second place pretty much for the entire first half. Let's take that back, for the entire first half of the race. But right now, looking like this set of tires not necessarily giving the handling Ryan Patty wants to see. Maybe we also see the track tip come up a little bit, making these cars a little more slidey. This racetrack, it has a lot of grip, it has a lot of angle in it, but it can get very loose and twitchy on a hurry, especially on throttle at corner exit. We see Tyler White all over the bumper here of Patty. We're going to pay close attention to this and also step aside one more time. Lap number 82 of 140 here at Dover. You're watching Turn 1. Lap number 89. And Ryan Patty settled into third here for the DRS crew. Tyler White fourth. Lonnie Barrington, but the driver putting on a show here tonight is Vinny Masteas, sitting in P1 right now. Vinny starting on the pole here tonight, leading all the laps so far. Looking to go flag to flag again. 4.2 tenths, well, let's just call it 4.2 seconds out front. Blistering pace out of that 70 car. This second stint here, as we are closing in just under 50 laps to go for the Downforce Racing Series live on turn 1. This is Tyler White on screen at the moment. He's battling Bob Lacavera. Bob sitting a lap down, trying to race his way forward. So is Dave Hunt. They're showing well in the position. On track, that's 6th and 7th, but ultimately a lap down. Oh, we got a car really slow. Who is that? That is Thomas Taylor. Looked way out of shape down on the apron. He's going to come down pit road. Nice job saving that car there, Thomas. That could have been really ugly down there at the entrance of turn 1. This battle here, that is Oaks and Patty. Would be for second, and I suspect Ryan's not going to settle for that third place spot for long. He's starting to close the gap now on the 51. What was about half a second of a interval's now turned into 2 tenths, or really just a few car lengths. Now separate these two. Patty driving down through 3 and 4, a little lower than Oaks. As they come across a stripe here. Oaks not having the fire off, I would think he would like to have each and every week. And ultimately going to cost him some points on track. We see Patty, Oaks again, continuing to run right there at each other's tire tracks. Patty waiting for Oaks, and this is kind of the big shark, little fish here. Patty, I think, has proven he's faster. He's certainly run down the 51 of Henry Oaks, and ultimately just waiting to pounce there on a little bit of a slip up out of the 51. I say that, and all of a sudden Ryan Patty loses a bunch of time. That big shark maybe not having enough space. I don't know what happened, but the 30 car lost over 2 seconds. Maybe a really bad quarter exit. It's able to keep it rolling, but Kane Henry Oaks able to now breathe a little bit. 2.2 seconds back is Ryan Patty. Give me just a moment and we can find out exactly where we stand on the point situation here for the Downforce Racing Series live here tonight. This is the Cup Series on turn 1. And it is Vinny Masteas out front right now in the points, and that's no shocker. Vinny obviously looks like he has 5 total wins here this season, really putting on a show. Need to confirm if these are updated exactly. Nope, they are not. I apologize. Give me just a moment. That is not reflective. That was at Texas. Yep, no, these are correct. So it looks like, yep, Masteus out front by 18 total points. The only driver that can catch him is Ryan Patty. A win would certainly go a long way in seeing the 70 car bring home the championship here tonight at Dover. Caden Henry Oaks starting to chew in just a little bit of that gap on our leader, down to 4.1 seconds as we cross lap 103 for 140 here at Dover. Ryan Patty, he is settled into third. He's starting to run back down the 51 of Henry Oaks. That 2-second gap is now down to 1.1. Pay close attention to that drive back up there to the bumper of the 51. Lonnie Barrington. Tyler White and Lonnie Barrington, your top five. Then it's Dave Hunt, Bob Lacavera, Mike Whitaker, hand over fist. John Anderson looks like he is down pit road and in his box for service. Ron Dale is also down pit road. So some final stops for some of these drivers coming here. As another driver hits pit road. That is Mike Whitaker rather. And this tells me that I don't know if all these drivers feel like they've got enough fuel. And is that going to be a contributing factor here to this pursuit of the 30 and the 51 and their drive to get these, as maximize their point opportunities? Vinny Masteus now sitting 5.1 seconds out front of Ryan Patty. But has Ryan been saving a little bit? That may be a factor here. I don't know if you could go the whole way. I think right around 60 laps is probably the stretch. But we've also seen Ryan Patty at times look like he's in deep conservation mode. Tyler White's going to pit from the top five for his final service here. I'll tell you one driver that has not been holding out. That is Vinny Masteus. Vinny having a really strong night, leading all the laps so far here. No signs of that 70 car coming down pit road just yet. As we look back through the top four, all these drivers looking like they're going to stay out for at least another lap. Lonnie Barrington coming off of turn two. Not going to slow up for corner entry down to the apron. He is going to go another lap. Our top four continuing to run. I will mention the battle here with Caden Henry Oaks, Ryan Patty. Just about 10 laps to go. This interval was over 2 seconds. Patty's continued to run back down the 51. Masteus not feeling any pressure here. He's 4.2 seconds out front off the nose of Caden Henry Oaks, but Ryan Patty looking to make this pass, and he sees an opportunity for more points before it's all said and done. We're going to continue to watch this battle. We'll step aside one more time. Masteus out front. 4.1 seconds on the remainder of the field. We can see some flags, green flag stops before it's all said and done, though. Vinny Masteus, your leader. You're watching turn one. Closing in on 21 laps to go here at Dover for the Downforce Racing Series. Vinny Masteus out front has led all the laps so far here tonight. Caden Henry Oaks sitting second. Ryan Patty, your third place driver here tonight. Patty was within 2 or 3 tenths again of Oaks, and now that gap back down to more than a second. As we see here, this Bob Lacavera, Mike Whitaker pressuring the 70 a little bit. These two on fresher tires. But man, a significant amount of time lost there. Navigating some of that lap traffic. Masteus going to get back into rhythm here as he looks to the inside of the 707. Again, Mike Whitaker, Bob Lacavera have been down pit road. This is new tires versus old, and Masteus able to thunder by the 707 there again, but not before seeing behind him that gap increase, or decrease rather, to 2.5 seconds as we see these laps also, the lap count start to decrease. How much fuel does the 70 car have? How much fuel does the 30 car have? And Caden Henry Oaks as well, he's in this mix. These drivers last down pit road lap 61. Has there been any conservation efforts here, and is that going to be a factor before this all comes to a close? A driver here that we've talked about a little bit, but really having a strong night here is Lonnie Barrington. He's sitting P4 right now. Not a bad run for the driver of the 23. That's got to feel pretty good as you see Masteus work by him there. Not a bad showing for Barrington here at Dover. Masteus has got some lap traffic out the front, trying to hang on as much as he possibly can to that gap. And it looks like Ryan Patty's in hot pursuit again of Caden Henry Oaks. We've seen the 51 be very consistent, especially during this second half of the race. Was able to get by Ryan Patty fairly quickly, and then it has been essentially cruise control since. You see Patty run him down at least twice to get within striking distance, but not able to pull off the pass. And with our top three fighting fairly hard into points, but really more importantly, that first to second place battle right now, right after Texas, that gap, Masteus is out front 18 points. He'd love to bring home a victory here and widen that gap ever so slightly over Ryan Patty. Caden Henry Oaks is, I believe, some 80 seconds back. I don't suspect that'll be much of a factor. He'll have to, basically Oaks would have to sit out, or sorry, Patty would have to sit out the next two races to really be any opportunity there for Caden Henry Oaks to take that second spot away, as we see Dave Hunt hit pit road for service. Outside of Dave Hunt here, the last four drivers, the drivers running in the top four, have not come down pit road yet. 13 laps to go. And lap times and the gap between one another tell me there's not a whole lot of conservation happening. So we'll have to monitor that here. Maybe they've got just enough to go all the way to the end. We're going to find out. It's closing in here on 10 to go. Masteus looking to tick these off pretty quick. We're going to step aside one more time. We'll be right back. You're watching Turn 1. Masteus just needs to hang on for 5 more laps to bring him a checkered flag. He's led lap to lap, started on the pole. Hasn't really had a whole lot of pressure up front, running his own race, 4 seconds a gap now. But this is the battle right here on track. Ryan Patty, Caden Henry Oaks side by side. This is for second. Patty gonna squeeze by Henry Oaks. That's gonna be another point there for Ryan Patty as Dave Hunt tries to slide by Oaks here. That is new tires versus old. And Oaks did not want to be pinched down on the corner. He wanted to be able to widen out the line and drive off. Ryan Patty moving up to P2 here. The final laps at Dover for the Downforce Racing Series live on turn 1. Now, Patty driving, he's having to work around Hunt. Hunt's going to look to try to, he's going to get by him there. That's going to slow him up just a little bit. But can Ryan Patty hold off Caden Henry Oaks for the final 2 laps? Masteus under the bridge, down into 3. 1 lap remains here tonight at Dover. 1 lap to determine if Vinny Masteus could go flag to flag here for the DRS crew. Patty, no factor with Caden Henry Oaks. He has settled into second. The 70 car has been incredibly impressive all season long. And he's going to add to the trophy case. Vinny Masteus is your winner here tonight at Dover. Ryan Patty's going to capitalize on that pass he made with 5 to go. He's going to bring home P2. Caden Henry Oaks, P3. Tyler White going to settle in for 4th. Lonnie Barrington, Dave Hunt, Mike Whitaker, Bob Lacavera, John Anderson, Ron Dale, your top 10. Hanover Fisk going to finish 11th. What a great race across the board here tonight at Dover. We're going to step aside for just a moment, see if we can bring you some post-race coverage. The 70 car is going to take his opportunity to celebrate another victory here for the DRS crew. And we're going to step aside. You're watching Turn 1. Another race in the books for the Downforce Racing Series, and a pretty solid race. Only 1 caution here tonight, and that was for the stage break. Let's take a quick look at the schedule tonight. Wrapping it up at Dover. Masteus your winner. Next week we head to Kansas. Then, as I mentioned, we wrap up race coverage for the Downforce Racing Series on 8/5. That is 2 weeks from tonight in the high desert of Phoenix here on Turn 1. Looking forward to that as this season comes to a close. Gonna take another moment here and wait to see if we can get anybody for post-race, but as I talked about, this is gonna wrap up race coverage for Turn 1 this week. The Sunday Night Surge Series is off. They are actually in the middle of transition into the new season. That kicks off, I believe that's August 3rd. So we will talk to them, or we will be back with them in 1 week's time. But next Monday night, we will continue for the Cooks Landscape Group Cup Series right here on Turn 1. We'll talk with Vinny Masteus here very quickly, your race winner, flag to flag. Vinny, congratulations on the victory here tonight. This has got to feel good in locking up that point standing, at least in that first spot, for another week, and ultimately some redemption from last.
Yeah, I feel really good. I hope that was going to be the end right there for for points. But yeah, it felt good overall. Car was a little finicky with tires, so luckily I saved enough and I had a good consistent pace and just stayed with it and had enough in the end.
Vinny, what separated? So obviously this race was split into two halves, essentially. We saw that first half, you're not able to break away as nearly as much, but it was apparent right after that for a pit stop that you had some significant pace in compared to the rest of the field. What was the difference between that first run and that second run here tonight at Dover?
Yeah, I was definitely testing it out a little bit. I want to see how far I can get without heating up those tires too much, and then just stayed consistent pace with the field, trying to keep that second and a half barrier. And whenever they would try to, when they started pacing closer to me, I would just go a little bit harder, and figured out that doing that, the tires started falling off quick. So next, after the second half, I decided to jump out in front and do hard 3 to 4 laps and get that gap sooner, and then have the rest of that, the race just pacing the same time as much as I could. And yeah, the car felt good even at the end. I was actually surprised. I know Bob had a meatball flag for 0% on his tire, so I was kind of worried about that. But pulled it off, felt good, drove nice, good setup. Back in victory lane.
Absolutely, Vinny. Listen, congratulations. Another strong run here tonight at Dover. We'll see you next week in Kansas. Thanks for the time.
You got it. Thank you.
We'll quickly move over to the driver of the 51, Caden Henry Oaks. Caden, congratulations on top 3 here in the books. That car looked like it was a handful, at least for everybody throughout the field here tonight. What was the key to staying near the front?
Clean air so you could save the tires.
I feel like that's becoming a very common theme with this car. It sounds like so anytime you were stuck behind somebody, the front just got tight.
Yeah, that's what cost me a spot there at the end. I was running 23.7s pretty much that entire last run, and as soon as I got half a second behind Mike there with 10 or 8 to go, whatever, I immediately went to running O's and 1s and ended up losing that spot to Ryan. I mean, he drove a good race too, I would argue he drove a better race than he deserved second, but I felt like the dirty air, especially in the first stage, determined on how you were going to do.
Okay, and we saw, again, we hear every week how aero-wise this car is super sensitive and causing a lot of issues. Next week we go to Kansas, a little bit more spread out of a racetrack, but ultimately I think the same things go to apply there. If you learned anything over the last couple of weeks that you could take to go to Kansas and maybe knock down that point deficit a little bit, or bring home another victory here towards the end?
I'm confident in my ability at Kansas. That's one of my favorite ovals, similar to Bristol. So, I think I'm expecting to go out there and have a good points day. Had one tonight. Granted, didn't really make up anything on Vinny and Ryan, but still a good night. Ran pretty much where I expected to. Just keep the momentum going.
Well, that is going to do. Caden Henry Oaks is going to bring home a top 3 here at Dover. Caden, thanks for the time tonight. We look forward to talking to you at Kansas.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll wrap up race coverage here tonight for the Downforce Racing Series live on Turn 1. Again, we'll be back here next Tuesday night at Kansas, and then wrap it up in 2 weeks' time at Phoenix. On behalf of the league admins, I'm Sean Fitz. We appreciate you being here. We'll see you Monday night for the Cooks Landscape Group Cup Series live action on Turn 1. Good night, everybody.